Mike, when did Penn State hire Jay Paterno and Galen Hall to join the offensive coaching staff?
Here we go.
Those play calls look like something that Jay Paterno and Galen Hall were behind. Not this offensive guru and Bill O'Brien.
Welcome to the low post, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm full of it today. Wow. This is 2 games now in the season. They're 3-2 in the year for Penn State, where they've totally forgotten about the run game. You know, where he just falls in love with the pass, and it's not working. Run the ball. The running game would have been there. Lose to Indiana, which I think maybe this was a game they were looking, a letdown game. They were looking ahead to Michigan this weekend. But this was an Indiana team that has a lot of weapons and actually has some good defensive players as well. But those receivers, that Latimer and a couple of those guys, man, they could go get the ball. And that quarterback was impressive. So this is not the same Indiana team we used to see years ago out there in the field.
It really isn't. And I thought it would be a tough game for that reason because, Penn State is not great defensively just in terms of personnel. And Indiana's pretty good offensively. But I thought that that Penn State would be able to run the ball, control the game in that way, control the clock, move the chains, and they were not able to do that. And some of that, I think it's fair to say, some of that was play calling. I don't think that's an unfair statement at all. I thought that their rushing numbers were not good, but I think they were a little bit deceptive. I thought they were not ineffective enough running the ball to get away from it to the extent that they did. And then there was a stretch in the game early in the fourth quarter where it really kind of unraveled, and it wasn't, the final margin was really not indicative of how competitive a game it was. But yeah, I think it's fair to say that they got away from what they needed to do to win that game.
No, they really did, and there was a chance where I really thought when they scored in the second half, they had the momentum maybe on their side. All of a sudden, Indiana countered it again and scored. It sort of changed it all. And then things unraveled, as you said. And the fourth down call in their own territory was an odd call. But again, I felt like sort of O'Brien in this case. The game was on the line at that point. They needed to get that play. But then the pass play he called on fourth down in their own territory late in the game was a play that was questionable. I mean, it wasn't. There's higher percentage throws.
It wasn't a high percentage
throw. So we both agree this could have been someone on the coaching. Now, saying all this, I think they're going to beat Michigan this weekend.
Oh, all right.
And part of it's after I read your column. I was proofing your page and putting together the Penn State Extra that we put together. And one thing that jumped out was in your column, did they lose the edge was your question, okay? And I'm talking about losing the edge with us against the world. You know, people have really jumped on their side even last year. You guys were too harshly penalized. We're going to give you scholarships back, They lost a little bit. They've been hearing this all week. I think they're going to come out really sort of fired up this week. You talk about getting attention here. The coaches,
I kind of agree with what you're saying in this respect. I think last year they had a mindset that maybe they allowed to slip a little bit this year, you had some Penn State players, former Penn State players, tweeting after the game that, I don't think we ever lost to Indiana. Like, well, this is a different thing, and right. O'Brien even kind of addressed that. I think kind of in being upset about the game, he kind of addressed that afterwards, and I think he wishes he wouldn't have, and he really clammed up today at the press conference that I just left. There was nothing about there. He was absolutely not going back to the Indiana game in any way, shape, or form, so it ended up being a very short press conference. But yeah, I think it maybe they are a little bit back to that. Not us against the world, but just, I mean, believe me, they can't afford to take anybody lightly. Anybody on their schedule, Indiana included, but everybody else on their schedule going forward.
There's really no light ones coming up either. I mean, this is a tough schedule. It's Ohio, Michigan, Ohio State.
They have some games at Purdue and Illinois and Minnesota. I mean, those three.
Minnesota's on there.
Yeah, but I mean, that means that they have 7 games left. I mean, those are the only 3 in which they're probably going to be favored. So you're right, Stark.
Okay, let's look at this matchup with Michigan. Michigan's coming in. A pretty impressive win against Minnesota, but I'm not sure how good Minnesota is. What do you think with Minnesota? What do they have to do to get a win for Penn State?
Well, I think Michigan. The bad news for Penn State is that Michigan has a really good run defense, which Indiana supposedly did not, and they couldn't really go nuts running the ball. Anyway, they have a quarterback who is very talented, Devin Gardner, but has made a lot of mistakes. And I think the defense is going to have to create some turnovers and some big plays. It is a sellout, so they're going to have something close to 108,000 fans. Game. It's going to be in the evening. It should be a good atmosphere if Penn State can come up and put up a fight. And they have to feel like they're kind of fighting for their season a little bit now, even though it's only week 6. So I think they will put up a fight.